And what a delight and, quite frankly, an honor to have with us a gentleman that you probably have seen all over the news. And we are delighted to have with us today Dr. John Brehany. He is the Executive Director of the Catholic Medical Association. And he's here to talk about a lot of things, in particular what happened in his opinion with the court case yesterday. And of course, one of the big events coming up and already in process, the Fortnight for Freedom. We want to talk to him about that. You may have seen Dr. Brehany on, one of the major networks, on CBN as well. And Dr. Brehany, what a delight to have you, sir.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I wish it was a happier occasion, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think we all kind of scratching our head, and I'm trying to analyze everything that everybody else is trying to analyze. What happened yesterday with the U.S. Supreme Court? Can you kind of give us your feel for it?
Well, I'm so disappointed because, you know, and I'll tell you what, you've heard the phrase, sometimes I've heard it in the past, that was a shock but not a surprise. When a big decision is made, but one you know is coming. Yesterday was a shock and a surprise. Nobody saw that coming. Why not? There were two things, I think. One, nobody expected Chief Justice Roberts to vote with the four liberals. Not to say that we necessarily thought the Supreme Court would overturn Obamacare in its entirety or even strike down the mandate, but nobody saw Chief Justice Roberts going the way he did. I think that the second thing, again, very disturbing, is nobody saw the court making this kind of ruling, which is both very strange on its face and potentially very harmful to all of us in the future. So what did Chief Justice Roberts do? He said the individual mandate is constitutional, not under the Commerce Clause and not under what's called the Necessary and Proper Clause. This is what the Obama administration was arguing, was that essentially Congress had the authority under certain clauses of the Constitution and sort of long established powers of the federal government to impose this new requirement on us. And the Chief Justice said, no, you don't have it under that. That's what they had been basing all their arguments on. Instead, he said, you can treat this penalty like a tax, and then you have the power as Congress or federal government to impose taxes on people. Nobody saw that coming. And so it's bizarre in its face because really, as the other justices pointed out in dissent, what the court has done is it's actually rewritten the law. It would have had to say the law as written was unconstitutional. They had to rewrite the law. And this is very worrying for the future because now what he has invited the federal government to do is to impose punitive taxes on American citizens for not behaving the way the federal government wants them to behave.
Wow. I think you did an excellent job explaining that, because what I kind of got out of all of this, Dr. Brehany, was that it appeared that Chief Justice Roberts' ruling changed the intent of the bill to say something other than what it was argued to be. And in doing so, it became a tax. It's just an amazing thing to see happen. I mean, now do we have an activist Supreme Court?
Well, it certainly appears so. There are many constitutional questions here. For example, taxes, a bill to create a tax can only originate in the House of Representatives, but the individual mandate evidently originated in the Senate bill. I mean, that on its face would almost seem to invalidate the law again, although how we'll get that back to this court and have any hope in a logical result is beyond me. But it's bad enough on its face. But like I said, now what the justice is saying is Congress could pass laws and they don't have to mention the word tax. They don't have to call something a tax. Right. evidently they can pass laws and mandate things like everyone must buy an electric car, everyone must buy broccoli, and then say, well, you don't have to, but you'll pay a punitive tax. It's not a revenue-raising tax. Those are the taxes we're used to. This is a punitive tax that evidently Congress has the power to impose. It's bizarre.
All right, I want to come back to some of the things you're very passionate about. And first of all, give us an update on Fortnight for Freedom.
Fortnight for Freedom seems to be going very well. There have been kickoff events last week. We passed out resources to our membership, not only resources for political action and education, but also for prayer. We really think this is a time not only, again, to engage in advocacy and education, but really for Christians to come together to pray, really to have a change of heart ourselves, to really heighten our awareness of the importance of our own religious liberty and the responsibility that we have to exercise it, and also to pray for a change of heart in our fellow citizens, those in the street and those in the halls of government. So it's going well. Our members are engaged. I know our members have participated in rallies and events around the country. It's going to go about another week now, just less than a week, through July the 4th. Mm-hmm. So that's carrying on.
All right, let me encourage people to check it out, Fortnight for Freedom. And you can go to Fortnight for Freedom, that's the number 4.org to get more information. Dr. Brehany, can you give us an update? I know that Catholic bishops around the country and around the world have certainly voiced strong opinions about the president's and the administration's policy through HHS. First of all, I want to commend you and our Catholic brethren for doing what they're doing. Thank God you guys are standing up and pushing back. This is so meaningful. Where is that suit now in the process?
Well, I'll tell you, there are actually 23 different lawsuits filed in federal jurisdictions all across the United States. There were 11 different ones as of, say, about May the 15th, and then a number of Catholic dioceses, Catholic institutions, Catholic universities collaborated in filing another 12 lawsuits in multiple jurisdictions throughout the country. Here's where we're at on all of this. Obviously, the executive branch is absolutely and ideologically committed to imposing this mandate. Congress is completely unable to act because the Democrats control the Senate, and they are determined that nothing's going to change. That only leaves the courts. What we are hoping for, really, is an injunction in one of the federal courts that will prevent this mandate from taking effect before August 1st. We have just over 30 days before this mandate takes effect for everyone, really, and including many Catholic institutions. And I'll just point out, there are really two things of great significance with this mandate. Certainly one is the dictate of the federal government that every employer, every health insurance plan must provide as a fully funded benefit all contraceptives, sterilization, and abortion-causing pills. I mean, what they're literally demanding is that we subsidize these services for people who want to engage in them. And we saw that young lady from Georgetown, a lady at Georgetown Law School, obviously very wealthy, just demanding that people pay for her birth control pills. That's one, and that's it's terrible. But what the administration's also doing, and this should concern every Catholic, every Christian, and everyone of faith, is they are defining what counts as a religion and then saying who's religious enough to get an exemption. So they said, well, Catholic parishes are religious institutions, but Catholic hospitals, universities, social service agencies are not. And the same, of course, would apply to, Christian childcare programs, right. Christian schools, and so on. They are defining religion in a way that's never been done. The effect is literally to say religion is something that takes place inside the walls of the church, maybe on Sunday morning. It's something you can do in your home, but it has nothing to do with public witness, public action, engaging your citizens, even serving your citizens. That's not religion. Evidently, that's going to be the government, and that's profoundly troubling.
Dr. Brehany, are you getting any cooperation from the Protestant community on this pushback?
I think there have been many expressions of solidarity, many expressions of goodwill. I don't know how many lawsuits there have been. It's hard to, for me to know how many postcards, signature petitions, those kinds of things are happening. I know there are good groups out there, the faithful groups who really stand up for the right to life and our traditional beliefs. So I think we're getting a lot. I think the question is, when will we see some sort of decisive intervention, by something that's going to stop this? Because if it doesn't stop it, again, a very dangerous precedent for the future.
Quickly, so what court do you think will hear it first? I mean, will you have a hearing before August 1st?
Well, from my understanding, and I know the Beckett Fund has a great website, a great page that sort of updates people on progress. They've been tracking all these. I just talked to an attorney involved in some of the cases about a week ago. He said essentially what's happening right now is the Obama administration is challenging many of these lawsuits on procedural grounds, essentially not really getting to the substance very much, but just saying, well, these people have no standing, filing motions to delay. And, there are all kinds of rules and hoops and so on in the court process you have to get through. So I don't have any other updates. These things are just sort of going through the initial stages, obviously, of filing and motions.
How, God forbid, but if we can't get a ruling by August 1st, what is the Catholic Church prepared to do with some of their major institutions in pushing back against this policy?
I've listened to some discussions, and what I've heard is that there are two things they're not going to do. They're not going to provide the benefits, and they're not going to pay the fines. They're going to refuse to do those things. Some people have speculated whether these institutions would close, and the advice, it seems, of everyone I've heard is absolutely not. They should not close. That's exactly what this administration wants to do. It does want to drive them out of business. So in general, I think they're going to refuse to comply. They're going to refuse to pay. And then, unless there's court action, I think the Obama administration would have to send some sort of federal agents to arrest them and to padlock their doors. And we'll see if they're willing to do that. Wow.
Well, thank you for what you're doing and keeping on top of this. I'd love to keep you close to us so we can have updates as this thing progresses. Dr. Brehany, we've been praying for you and all of your organizations and the people behind these suits. This is so critical for every person of faith. I just want to commend your folks and your tenacity and your fortitude to go forward with this.
Well, thank you for your prayers, and thank you for your witness as well.